Good morning. Thank you. That was wonderful. I just enjoyed that music. Today we're going to take a look at a Hindu prayer. A few months ago, Melinda recommended a book from the podium when she spoke called God Makes the Rivers to Flow. And in that book, the author presents several writings, positive, upbeat spiritual writings from across the spectrum, from Lao Tzu to the Bible to Swami Paramananda, who we'll read today. And try to say that quick 3 times. And the reason we want to look at this morning is it's a prayer that will help us, I believe, inspire us to pray all the more, but also give us a new approach or some ideas on how to approach prayer in our lives. I had the task of memorizing this prayer and meditating on it for the last several weeks, and I can tell you it provides a great benefit. It's a neat experience to memorize that prayer, to meditate on it, and to allow Spirit to speak to us through that means. The prayer is called the source of our existence. And it's in the form of the Middle Eastern prayer. And Middle Eastern Eastern prayer always starts off with a time of praise. They take time to talk about who God is. They take time to talk about the divine and who God is, so that it comes into the forefront of our minds exactly who we're addressing. Instead of just going, okay, God, do this, or God, go do that. They take time to start with an introduction, to remind ourselves, put ourselves in that place where we're ready to receive the grace of God. And so they start off, again, with a note of saying who God is and who God is to us. And this prayer starts out, O thou compassionate and all-loving Spirit, thou art the sustaining power of our life. Thou art the unalterable source of our existence. Thou art eternally abiding within us. Thou art above us and below us. Thou art before us and behind us. Thou art all about us. Even though it's Hindu, it almost sounds a little King James there, doesn't it? It's similar to that. And again, the reason for starting out in this fashion, starting out with an address to who God is, reminding myself of who God is, saying words of praise and of reminding, again, what is the nature of the divine to me and who is the divine to me. All of us, if you can think back to a time when you had to go ask somebody for something or you wanted to approach somebody, the attitude that we come with often determines the success of our interaction. If I come to a boss and I'm thinking, this guy's a jerk, I don't know what's going to happen, I've just got to storm in and get done what I need to get done and get out. And if I do that, the success of my mission is usually not very good. Or if I approach someone, a significant other or some family member or something, the attitude I come with at that moment, regardless of what the relationship has been throughout the time, the attitude that I come with at that moment can determine the success or the failure of that interaction. How much I derive from it, how much I'm able to bring to a situation. What is my attitude at that moment? What happens? How I prepare myself for that moment can determine a lot on the success or the failure of that interaction. So Swami Paramananda starts out saying, O thou compassionate and all-loving Spirit. Right away, we lose the idea, as Jim came in this morning, he asked me, he says, so are we going to have hellfire and brimstone this morning? Are we going to sizzle this morning a little bit? Well, I'm afraid to let you down. As it starts off, as I approach God, as I speak with the divine, and I remind myself, O thou compassionate and all-loving Spirit. That's who I fellowship with. That's who I am one with, a compassionate and all-loving Spirit. When I see that, when I come and I remind myself of that, especially if I've been out in the world, if maybe like it's Sunday, okay, if I've gone shopping at Walmart on Sunday, and I'm coming home, and I want to remind myself that There is a compassionate and all-loving spirit in the world. So before I go to prayer, again, I put myself in that place. I remind myself, who is the divine? Who is the divine? O thou compassionate and all-loving spirit, thou art the sustaining power of our lives, of our life. Thou art the sustaining power of our life. It's interesting, again, to see and to identify ourselves with the divine in that sense. In other words, the power that I live by, the energy that I live by, is of the divine. There's nothing, no less. Again, I identify myself with the divine. Thou art the sustaining power of our life. And it's interesting that they use the singular, our life. Now, if you're going through typing in Word, it'll underline that and say, wait a minute, our life doesn't work. That's bad grammar. You can't use, you gotta say our lives, not our life. I'm taking Intro to Greek at TCU this semester, and so grammar is foremost in my mind, and so I see these things now, all these, the grammar cop here. So he says, thou art the sustaining power of our life. And in that one word, I think, it shows the beauty of unity. It shows the beauty of unity. Thou art the sustaining power of our life. We all share in this one life. We all share in this one life. Rather than our lives individually, rather than being the sustaining power of our lives individually, maybe a little bit, different with you or different from me, we share in this energy, in this reality that is life. And the divine is that sustaining power of that life, of our life. And so, again, we remind ourselves as we're coming to prayer, we remind ourselves as we're coming to commune with God of the reality that God is the sustaining power of our life. And he says, thou art the unalterable source of our existence. The unalterable source of our existence. No changing. No changing. God will not be different today or tomorrow or the next day, regardless of how we feel, regardless of what our situation might be, regardless of what our emotional state might be at any given time. When we come to prayer, we remind ourselves, thou art the unalterable source of our existence. And so again, I draw away from the current, draw away from this moment might be this way, and this moment might be this way. And I might be upset because something happened that got me upset. And before I go to prayer, before I look to God, before I open my heart to realize the grace of God, I remind myself, thou art the unalterable source of my existence. And the source, again, we identify over and over again in this beginning, we identify ourselves with the divine. We identify ourselves with the divine, the source of our existence, the very source of our existence. If you look at manufactured goods and such, they all have a little stamp on them, made in Japan, made in China. And it used to be kind of a laugh, made in Japan. Oh yeah, everybody, that was kind of made in USA was the strength, whatever. And so all of us have a little tag on us. It says, made by God. Made by God. All of us. God is the unalterable source of our existence. And it says, thou art eternally abiding within us. Thou art eternally abiding within us. Again, I create the picture in my mind, I create the picture in my heart of oneness with God. It's not that God is off in heaven, and if I need help, God will be there for me. Because that can always create some kind of fear. It's like, can God really cover that distance in the time where I need God? Or, again, it creates a sort of a separation, a distance from God. If I see God being up in heaven and me down here, instead, I realize, thou art eternally abiding within me. I am one with God. I am one with the divine. And so I start my prayer with that. I start my prayer. Take time in prayer rather than just, again, rushing in and trying to get it done. Yep, prayer, yep, check, okay, I've got to be prayer today. I take time to remind myself, God is compassionate. God is all-loving. God is the source of my being. God is the power of my life. God eternally abides within me, eternally, from forever to forever, unaltered, unaltered, unchanged. And it's only at this point that Swami Paramananda starts to actually pray, to actually talk to God and ask or look for God's grace in his life. And so if we could, before we get to that part of the message, if we could practice what the Swami did in the beginning to prepare ourselves for that, to prepare our minds and our hearts for that experience. If we could all, and if you'd like to, close your eyes and let's pray that opening part of it to prepare ourselves, to let ourselves be ready for the grace of God in our lives. And repeat after me. O thou compassionate and all-loving Spirit. O thou compassionate and all-loving Spirit. Thou art the sustaining power of our life. Thou art the sustaining power of our life. Thou art the unalterable source of our existence. Thou art the unalterable source of our existence. Thou art eternally abiding within us. And so we prepare ourselves to hear. We prepare ourselves to meet with God. We prepare our hearts to receive, to hear, and to know the grace of God in our lives. And it's at this point then that the Swami starts to talk and to open himself up to the grace of God. And the first line he uses is, unfold our understanding, that we may comprehend thy vastness. Unfold our understanding, that we may comprehend thy vastness. The picture I have in my mind when I first read this is if you've ever bought balloons and they've packaged 100 balloons in a size of a package that should hold 50. But so they're all squished together and pushed together, and you take one out and it's just all folded in on itself. There's nothing, and you're not going to get air into that balloon. You're not going to get anything into that balloon because it's squished down, folded on itself. And so what I have to do is gently start to unfold the sides of the balloon. Gently start to unfold and create space within that latex. Create space so that whatever I want to fill it with, be it water, air, or whatever, there's the ability to do it. Because if you take it at that point where it's folded in on itself and you try to blow into it, usually there's nothing that can happen. It won't work. And so the first part of the prayer, he says, unfold our understanding, that we may comprehend thy vastness. In the same way, sometimes we find ourselves scrunching ourselves into fit in somewhere, scrunching our spirits, our hearts, so that we fit into society wherever it is we might be. Whether it's a fear of having too much space on the outside for people to touch, or whether it's not realizing that all of my needs are taken care of, or just going through the day and responding and interacting with the things of the day. I can find myself folded in. I can find my understanding folded in, and all of a sudden, I'm not real understanding with the person next to me. I'm not real understanding with the situation that's in front of me. And so the prayer is, unfold my understanding, that I may comprehend thy vastness. And understand, and see, he doesn't say, give me understanding. He doesn't say, give me understanding. We have understanding. We are one with God. The Spirit, the knowing, is there within us. He says, unfold our understanding. Open us up to realize who we are. Open us up to realize who we are. Unfold those things that would prevent us from experiencing the fullness of Spirit in our lives. Unfold our understanding. And as we're unfolded, and as that place to be filled opens up and we have that room, he goes on to say, fill our heart with inspiration. Fill our heart with holy inspiration. Fill our heart with holy inspiration. The whole idea of inspiration I think of as breath, the breath of God. Filling, again, the balloon, back to the balloon analogy, the breath of God, filling up the space within us, breathing within us. When Pat leads the meditations, we're always reminded to breathe deeply in and out. And there's an energy there when we realize that. And there's an energy there. And so this inspiration, we're looking to God, open us up, fill us with thy holy inspiration. Fill us with thy holy inspiration. And inspiration, by definition, is the ability to receive and to communicate divine revelation. Inspiration means the ability to receive and to communicate divine revelation. And so what I do, what I'm looking for, what I'm opening myself up to God for, is to help me see, to know I am divine. I am one with the divine. I'm one with God. Fill my heart with that inspiration, with that holy inspiration, that all of me may know that I'm divine, that I'm one with God. And he goes on to say, fill my whole being with thy divine light. Fill my whole being with thy divine light, that I might see, that I might know all things in that light. Each of us comes to any situation that we might have with a set of circumstances. We see things in a certain light, depending on what our belief systems might be, depending on what our experiences might be, depending on what our prejudices or whatever might be. There is a light that we interpret life in. And what the Swami is saying is, fill my whole being with the divine light, so that I might know all things in that light. Instead of in light of my circumstances, instead of in light of those limited things that I allow to dictate my responses and my reactions to life, fill my whole being with thy divine light, that I might know all things in that light. So when I see something happen in front of me, rather than saying, oh, see, that always happens. That always happens. That kind of person always does that to me. Or that kind of situation always happens, and I end up being hurt by it. Instead, I see it in the divine light, in the light of abundance, the light of God being all that God is. And I'm better able to walk through that situation. I'm better able to live in that situation. Light is defined in the dictionary as that which makes vision possible. That which makes vision possible. Light is what makes vision possible. Without light, I can't see. We had a family reunion up in a campground in Iowa every several years. And it is so far remote, it's so in a campground, that when all the lights of the cabins are turned out and everything else, you can't see more than a foot in front of you. It is so dark that you just can't see that much. There's no light. There's no ability to have a vision to see. Now, the stars fill the sky, but you can't see in front of you because there's no light to make vision possible. And so in this line of this prayer, we're asking, divine, fill our whole being with thy divine light, that we might know all things in that light. And then finally he says, bestow upon us the gift of true vision. Bestow upon us the gift of true vision, that we may love in thy love and live in thy life. That we may love in thy love and live in thy life. Again, now, so far we've gotten inspiration. We've come to know that we are divine. We've come to know, after it being unfolded, the breath of God inspires us to know that we are divine. And then the light of God makes us to see the divine in ourselves, the divine in others, the divine in all of our circumstances. And finally, we ask for the gift of true vision, the ability to see the way God does, the ability to see things the way God does, rather than the way we might see things. We ask for our minds to be open, our hearts to be open, our eyes to be enlightened, so that we see things the way God does. And that is bestow upon us the gift of true vision. Bestow upon us the gift of true vision. That whole idea of not only being knowing I'm divine, knowing you're divine, knowing my circumstances are divine, but seeing things in the light the same way that God does. I think God delights in creation today. I think God delights in who we are and in what creation is. There's the Genesis, when it talks about this first 7 days of creation. It says, and God said, let there be light. And it says, and God saw that it was good. You know, you get this picture of this, God up there saying, let there be light. And then, good, very stoically, good. Instead, I got to believe that God said, let there be light, and light happened. He said, wow, that is cool. That is light. Look at that. Look what happened. That is cool. That is light. And though that is the vision, that is the vision, that is the way of seeing life in the same way that God does. Rather than seeing it as in trouble or problems, seeing the beauty of it, seeing the dynamic, the power, the glory that is life. Seeing it and saying, wow, that's good. That's good. That is really good. That is where, when I say seeing things in the divine light, that's what I mean, seeing things the way God sees things. I believe God delights in being. God delights in us being and in all of creation being. And so the prayer then is, we started off by saying, reminding ourselves who the divine is. The divine is compassionate and all-loving. The divine is the power of our lives. The divine is the unalterable source of our existence. The divine is eternally abiding within us. We opened our hearts so that we might be able to hear. We might be able to sense and realize the beauty of the next part of the prayer. And we've asked and looked to God to unfold our understanding. Unfold our understanding. Fill us with inspiration. Fill us with inspiration. Fill us with thy divine light. And finally, bestow upon us the gift of true vision, that we may love in thy love and live in thy life. That is the prayer. That is, and again, it's although it's a Hindu prayer, it can be applied universally. The ideas are universal throughout all peoples of faith, I believe, and in ways to, it's not limited to just one certain sect or one certain group. It's a universal prayer. And sometimes it can be a reminder to us to take time in our prayer life to remind ourselves of the divine, to remind ourselves of what we are praying, who we are praying to, and what we are looking for. So I invite you to, again, the name of the book is God Makes the Rivers to Flow. And there are several passages in there that offer that same thing. So God, grant us, fill our whole being with thy divine light, that we might see things in that light.